Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Wild Man Revolution podcast. I have an exciting guest on today, as I always do, but this one's going to bring some grunt, I dare say. Before we get to our amazing guest, if you want to check out a lot of my work, I've got some great things going on at the moment. I've got the Breathwork by Donation, which is a fortnightly Saturday morning breathwork, body movement, qigong yoga class with meditation, softening it down, bit of nervous system calming work, bit of fire work as well. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All the links will be down below. Yes, straight into this. I'm super excited to have the next guest on, Dave Berriman. Brother, what a privilege it is to have your presence on the Wild Man Revolution podcast. Straight off the bat, you hear Wild Man Revolution and you feel into that. What comes through, man?
Wild Man Revolution. All right. So thank you for having me here just to start. It's an honor to be here, brother. Wild Man Revolution. What do I feel? For me, that's free men. Waking up and the revolution side of it, man. Like, again, making that impact, raising up the people around us. So revolution. Yeah, we're wild, man. We're free. We're wild. We have a message. And yeah, we're here to make an impact. So I think that's why we align so much, brother. We're doing similar work in different ways. So
yeah, man. Yeah. And I see you as wild too. Like straight away, previous podcast I was talking to Ryan. I'm like, yeah, Dave, yeah, I know Dave. And I was saying, when I took Chi around that couples night we had with you and your amazing queen there, and you're sitting there with the samurai sword. And she's like, what the fuck's going on? Is that real? And you're like, there's probably cut off your finger. And you were sitting there, and straight away, I'm like, yeah, that's like you and your like that wild side of you. You've got that wild, so to say, that part of it. And we'll probably touch on why the samurai sword and all that sort of stuff later. Even some of the stories you shared, like we haven't really known each other a long time, but I feel some of the conversations we've had, and why I'm excited to have you on there is really taking into some stuff that are fucking wild. And depends how you look at it. But on from that, one thing I have massive respect for anyone who's willing to say, yeah, it's my mission or my purpose or at this time in humanity is to fucking work with men. Because what I see looking around right now, even in my containers that I have of my coaching clients and that sort of thing, fucking men, apart from in pain, we can sometimes take a lot of work, a lot of persistence, a lot of support, a lot of help. And again, I have massive respect for you because you're like, yeah, I'm going to fucking help men at this current time. What part of your journey did you realize that you're like, that's what I'm here to do for now?
Right. So I had the message come through quite a few times, man.
And you ignored it the first time.
Yeah, I ignored it or half-assed it a couple of times. So when I started, yeah, you too, of course.
Yeah.
The first program that I went to launch, man, when I was basically doing body transformation, because I went from personal trainer to online personal trainer, like mind and body coach.
Yeah.
When I made that transition, my brand was built for business, right? So focusing on mind, body, soul, and then business, right? Like that was what I was working with.
Your brand, I should have mentioned this at the start. Like, let the listeners know I resonate so much with the name of your brand.
Yeah, self-made or self-made man for the program. Yeah.
It's epic.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. It's all about the self, man. Like everything's created from within. So we need to get to know, love, accept ourselves, transmute all the stuff that disconnects us from fulfilling what we're here to do as men. So yeah, that's what my program's about, man. Bringing guys back to themselves and getting them into their power. So where were we? What were we talking about before?
I just rudely interrupted your journey unfolding, and when you launched a proto, but you half-assed it.
Yeah. So the first time I went to launch a program, went for men, used a marketing campaign, and I started talking to these guys and just on the phone. Now I've had a background in sales, so I've been doing sales of high ticket coaching. Started off in door knocking back at the beginning of my journey. But yeah, like when I was talking to these guys on the phone, right, I was getting the leads come through, and I think I spoke to about 20 guys in one day, and I just decided, no, they're not even worth talking to. Just the barriers that they had up of willingness to be vulnerable and actually like, they put their name down for a call essentially. And I was speaking to them and I was just so much resistance. There was no openness or willingness to actually get help, right?
Yeah.
And again, it was a reflection on me, of course, right? Especially at that part of my journey.
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask for help. I'll figure it out myself. I was very much like that. So, I transitioned in and I did a empowerment program for women as my first online coaching program. And so very easy, filled it up very quick. That got me teaching and getting comfortable with that group coaching space and teaching the tools for personal empowerment. Like where the message to really work with men came through for me was actually on journeys. So whenever I would journey using medicines, right?
Go there, man. Go there. This is, I've already gone there in an earlier podcast. I think it's very, very relevant for everyone listening. Yeah.
So David's medicine's always been mushrooms, right? So anyway, like with that, I've seen a lot of stuff being shown, many versions of myself and things like that. But there was this strong calling to work with men, right? And it was like, you need to be the example, like be the example. You need to do the work. Like, again, my soul was calling me into doing this work. I launched a online mind and body transformation program for men in 2017. Went all right, but again, like that was guys that I knew. When it was actually about working with and attracting guys that I wasn't already connected with, I had blocks there because I had a lot of essentially healing I needed to do with my own masculinity and with my relationship with other men. I think
it's important too, because like when we were chatting before the call, I'm like, hey, how do you want me to introduce you? Like, what's the thing? And you just rocketed off this like boom, and I've held it to now because I was waiting for a prompt moment. And you're a masculinity leadership coach for ambitious men with a big focus on embodiment.
Yeah.
And going back to them, you needed to keep doing the work before you really landed in that. Yeah, it's been so similar to me too. Yeah. Like that's so similar to me. I started and it was easy to coach women. Women have been amazing. Like they're willing to be vulnerable and open. Like, yeah, I've got some shit going on. Yeah, I've got shit from the past. Yeah, I need healing. Man, it's like,
nope, I'm all right.
No. I just divorced, fucking lost my job and fucked up on the piss, but I've got this sorted now. No, thanks for 5 minutes.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah. And the problem they think they have is never the problem. Like it's the surface thing. And the thing, man, like I honor you for doing the work with men too, because it is like a lot of time it's a reflection of us and we need to be going first. So when I'm working with clients, when I'm taking them through processes or whatever they need to do, I'm also like, where is this showing up in me? Especially if I'm getting someone who's like resistant to doing the work or resistant to being committed or a man of integrity. Yeah. Like instead of blasting them, like, there's the tough love approach when it's done with a good heart when it's needed.
I've been rocking the tough love approach in the last week in one of my programs, and it's needed sometimes. But again, even that comes from a place of, I know when I started coaching and that, if I was dropping tough love, a lot of the time that was coming from my own insecurities or it was coming from like, oh, I'm not good enough. But I feel it now when it's like, dude, but I've got to be embodied in that. I've got to be like, hey, am I practice what I'm preaching? Am I really like solid in my center when I'm coming from this place of assertion? And again, it works sometimes, but sometimes
for me, like coming from, I guess an upbringing where, it was pretty violent. Like I was disciplined physically a lot as a kid and then like bullied at school and I learned to punch on. So I'm glad I can really hold my own and stand in my strength and my power. Yeah. But, tough love doesn't necessarily work with me because I want to punch you in the fucking head. Like that's how I'll respond. Right. So I don't use tough love unless it's more so coming through me. And I always make sure that, if I am coming into that place, that it's like message and it's not a projection, right? So again, like there's a self-check. It's like, no, well, this is coming through. What's the purpose, the intention? I'll do my processing and then come through that. And for me, it's always coming from a place of love and leadership, right? It's not just about like getting on someone because my ego needs it or I need to make an example, right? I've seen that stuff. Like I've seen leaders, mentors, coaches do
I
that.
started in that space, man, where that was
I
a
know.
one trick pony, and there's a lot of it out there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's not true leadership, man. It's the wounded masculine, right? It's the damaged masculine having a like his little boy fucking taking out other ones trying to make himself feel superior. And that's how those guys get their power. And I've seen that.
yeah.
And again, like me, the protective lover that I am, I kind of want to knock them out. They bring out that side of me.
Yeah, no, it's fair enough too, and you'll probably get deeper understandings of that too as you go on your journey as well. And I think going back to it, if you want to talk about it a little bit, it's fascinating, and this is what I feel a lot of men don't understand or they don't want to look at is like when we were young, like so much of what's playing out in our lives now, our relationships, our jobs, our careers, in society, how we show up, it stems from when we were young. And this is why I think a lot of men, because they've suppressed for so long, or they've been stuck in anger, which is like this surface level emotion, which is so powerful. It's my favorite, but it fights to keep all the other shit in. That's what it does.
Protective emotion. Protective.
It is, and it does a fucking great job of it until you really sink in.
Yeah.
A lot of men that they've got they're afraid to go there. They're afraid to talk, or they're afraid to acknowledge it. It's like, no. My mum and dad were great. I've got these stories. Like, I remember a healer. Like, my dad had a lot of unhealthiness, and a lot. Like, he used to drink a lot. Now he used to work fucking hard, but and he had like he was a man of integrity and all these things. And he used to like take me on adventures and teach me shit. But he had a real unhealthy side. And I was clear that that was unhealthy. And I was like, yeah, that. But I never looked at my mum. Fascinating. When I was young, my mum was a fucking angel. I felt like she was always the victim sort of thing, but I actually placed her in that. And I remember getting on, starting with a healer about 4 or so years ago. I work with a lot of women healers, which has been fascinating. Couple of men's coaches, but a lot of women's healers are very, very powerful. And first call we got on, I was expecting to go like work on my dad's stuff. Straight on there. She knew me. I'd coached her in like marketing stuff before and branding stuff. So we already had rapport. And straight away, she's like, all right, what was wrong with your relationship with your mum when you were young? And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? But she dived into it. And I didn't realize that the way I viewed the relationship, my mum and dad, and all these things, it brought up so much stuff on this like 6 months journey. And it wasn't about my mum. It was just how I formed these belief systems and how I was programmed from it and all that. And the way it was showing up in my life. When did I invest in this healer, this coach's healer? Well, when I had my fiance was just found out she was pregnant. We had so much shit coming up in emotion. I couldn't there. So I'm like, all right, I need to fucking help with this. Most men won't do that. I know that. I'll put my hand up. Most men won't fucking do that. So with all that I've shared there, I've got a lot more from my childhood I've dug into, and I've been willing to be vulnerable to do that. And for the men and women listening, again, the premise of the Wild Man Revolution is to show that there's a heap of men that have been in the work for a long time. There are men are stepping up. Not this, oh, here come the men, where are all the men? We're fucking here. And the ones that are in the work are the ones who have been willing to get vulnerable. And I go back to my journey, I'm sure the same with you. It's them moments of vulnerability, the fear or whatever you want to be. But when you do fucking step into that vulnerability or be that vulnerability, fucking you open up to so much, you grow so much. And the vulnerability for me is like, hey, I need help. I know I've got shit from my childhood.
Yeah.
So you want to touch on that, the relevance like for your world, for how you feel you show up now, but also like if you want to bring it relative to maybe the men you're serving.
Yeah, okay. So let me talk about one of the men I was serving last night on the call.
As long as he doesn't mind.
I won't mention his name, but you'll know who he is if he's talking about it. Because we're going through the program and obviously it brings up the stuff. And essentially, like, I'm just going to put it out there that we're all little boys in men's bodies, right? With patterns repeating our traumas, our conditioning, our limiting beliefs, and all that damage. And like when I say traumas doesn't mean like you were in a car accident or you were belted or anything like that. Trauma can just be getting told off as a kid or having one of your parents that's distant or conditional with their love. Like that's a trauma.
Even like I always talk about this like with a lot of timeline therapy and stuff like that. You might have heard a fucking loud noise in another room in the house and you're like, and it fucking anchors. So yeah, I'm glad you give context to that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, a big part of my trauma that I worked through, this is what got me into doing work with the medicine, was a lot around religion and hell and judgment and fear. And like, I believed I was like destined for this place of eternal torment, right? So I had to face off with demons, the devil, all the shadow aspects of myself very heavily, to the point where I died and had these experiences of going to different realms and having hell experiences in my 20s. So I went into that deep. So I guess when you come back from a few death experiences, you know you got nothing to lose, and you know what's actually on the other side to a degree. It changes you. But when it comes to the work with, like, our relationship with the masculine and the feminine, right? Your dad's going to be that first person to give you that relationship with the masculine if you've got your father around there. And then you've got your mother. Now, I had the same thing as you, where I was like, it was my dad that disciplined me, right? Mum was an angel and all those sorts of things. But when I actually delved into it and started to heal my little boy, it was about realizing that mum was actually numbed out because she had fibromyalgia and she was on painkillers, right? Which as a teenager was cool for me because I used to get Panadine 40 out of the cupboard and pop them, you know. That was great. But I wasn't getting her presence, right? So all those things. But again, like with my client that was on the call last night, I'd seen it in him. And again, like my role as a mentor or coach isn't to tell you how you're fucked up or what's going on with you, right? And there's time and a place where you're like, dude, like
it's usually a last straw. Like a last it's like, dude, if you're not willing to help yourself, I'm just going to give you one last fucking nudge and one last bit of information that I generally wouldn't give. Yeah.
But again, like when we do it right, essentially, or we're doing a good role, we're bringing them to realizations themselves. And this particular client on the group call brought up like how he just has this resentment and rage towards women that he wasn't aware of. Right, I picked up on it because I'd heard the language and things like that. I'm like, oh yeah, because that's something I needed to heal in myself as well, right? This rage, this resentment towards the feminine, which again, a lot of the wounded masculine has that because we weren't always held the way that we'd like to be held by the feminine, or there was some damaging behaviors, even if that was like over parenting or over loving, right? It can cause damage as a man. But he was like, I realized there's this part of me, he's like, that literally just wants to rip the head off women. And that was like, you know, confronting for him to find. But again, because he's got the tools and he was able to be vulnerable, able to be open, able to be in a place with no judgment, where we're all coming from a place of love and understanding. We're like, all right, bro, cool. It's amazing that you're able to express that here so freely. And then obviously we go into, all right, here's the tools to go into that and transmute that or heal that part of yourself, you know. I call it weed in the garden. We find our weeds. Well, we've got a weed here where we want to rip off the head of women, right? We've got to go in and we've got to talk to that. We've got to deal with that part of ourselves.
Right? I like that. I like that as a little bit of an analogy sort of thing. It's like, and it resonates too. Yeah, I had resentment too. Like that's what came true for me, for my mum. And resentment and some frustration for why she didn't stick up for herself, so to say. That was a big thing for me. And then that was showing up in my life in a simple thing. It's like I was basically paying out my dad's role to a point. And the relationships I was in, I was like super resentful towards the women, like, and blame, not taking responsibility, all this sort of shit. So that, and I feel that's a common one for a lot of men too.
Of course. Biggest thing, bro, is the blame factor. And we're seeing it in today's world more than ever, right? Now, again, I was one of those guys where I was blamed. It was the missus' fault if things weren't happening in the business, if like I was agitated or anything like that. You know how it is as an entrepreneur, bro. Like, you know, it can have its ups and downs. And when you've just got that one person there, right, instead of looking at, well, you know, actually doing the work and being willing to take ownership and go, all right, what is actually going on within me? You will look for it in the other person. And they're going to mirror back your shadows and your shit, right? It's going to be right there. But this is where people may see that, like they get the reflection from a partner, but then they blame them. Or they get a reflection from their boss, their finances, right? Like a lot of men protect and provide, right? Like if our finances are telling us that we're worthless, like it's everyone else's fault but mine, right? That was one of my things too. Like I had to do my stuff with money. I had to heal my relationship with money, knowing that that's a part of me as well. It's a consciousness that I have a relationship with.
Yeah.
And again, like when we can actually just take ownership and realize that everything's fucking you, everything's you.
Everything. I say this all the time. Like,
Yeah.
who's had a big win in their life? Like, serious. How many of you have celebrated something? I bet you took full responsibility for that. Well, it's no different for the shit. It's no different.
Yeah.
And they all have their, what would you say? When you get that part of it, you're willing to sort of look at it. And that's when the biggest shift happened for me, is when I, one good example for me without the relationship was in my job, in my career. Like I was like supervising jobs when I was like 20, 21. Like I'm in my 40s now because I wanted to be the boss. I love telling people what to do and I was fucking good at it. And I was on the ground. So I loved a lot of that side of it. As I went through my 20s and I got unhealthier with all the partying and all this sort of shit, I knew that where I was in that environment, job or anything, no matter how good I got at it, I needed to get out. And I was always saying, well, I'm going to go to the mines. All my mates were going up there, all that. I'm going to go. I was like 24 when I started saying this. I didn't go till I was 30. But in that 6 years, I'd make excuses for why I wouldn't go. Or if something went down at work, I would blame the boss or I'd blame that. Perpetuated over and over again until I said, instead of just saying, and this goes to integrity too, being of my word, what I'm saying to myself, all right, I fucking acted on it. And even then, I fucking OD'd in hospital the week before because I was trying to self-sabotage it unconsciously. It was like, and it was fascinating how that, and it was when I took that responsibility and certain synchronicities happened that I didn't fail the drug test. I still, to this day, it had to happen because I don't know, because I was still feeling the effects when I had the drug test. I'm like, anyway, but I took responsibility. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm fucking going there now. I did this. I chose this. And it was when I took responsibility of other areas of life. I took responsibility of my health. The way I took responsibility of relationships was it wasn't the healthiest. I said, I don't want to fucking see a woman again. I chose.
What you needed for a season.
I chose like 4 years. I'm like, get the fuck away from me. And most men or most people hearing that, I share this at events and like my fiance takes a piss out of me. She goes, you didn't even sleep with someone for 4 years. You're a loner. You're this, just as a joke. I did it. I went hardcore, but I took responsibility. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm responsible for all the relationships, how I've been in up to there. I think I need to work on this, but I'm focusing on my health. I'm focusing on my career. I'm focusing on my money. I'm focusing on feeling good about myself. Without being in the work, I was in the mines. Not a healthy environment, but the responsibility. And I think for a lot of people who are listening into this, that's the first step in any change, I believe. And it creates the most transformation. For me, it did. And it was 6 years before I got into the work that I really got into when I started asking questions like, why am I here on this planet? And all the things. Again, when I went to leave the mines, I knew I was asking this. Lost a good mate to suicide. Then I'm like, fuck, what the fuck am I on the planet for? I asked a question. It took me 2 years to act on the answer. The answer was like, you don't belong here, dude. Like, you got something going on here. You gotta work for it. 2 years before I took responsibility of that. Again, then the shift came. So chat more about the importance for you in your life. And then again, serving others, like of this key component element of growth really, or evolution. Like,
in what way?
What is responsibility, man? Like, even give examples from your life where maybe you've had some shifts around this, or clients if you want. I think it's important.
So essentially, like we're either in a place of being responsible or we're being the victim to our circumstances, right? So when we're a victim and things happen to me, I can't do this, and we place blame on things, we give our power away. And this is like, when I talk to a lot of men, they want their power back, right? Like,
I want to be empowered.
I want to be empowered. I want to be in control. I want my power back.
Yep.
And this is like where I can entice men to actually fucking take ownership and step the fuck up, because if you want that, well, then it's literally about taking ownership and full responsibility, because then everything's up to you, right? It's you are empowered, because if it's going to be, then it's up to me, type of thing, right? Like for me, once I really nailed that, whether it came to success in business, healthy relationships, wealth, or just fulfillment, happiness, right? Like how many guys, and I was surprised at this, but then I realized it was a reflection of parts of me over the years as well. They just want to be able to be happy and experience real joy, right? And here's the trick: it's a fucking decision, right? If you want to be happy, it's actually a choice, right? And if, like, again, making that choice may mean that it's not as simple as like pretending to be happy as it is as going, well, all right, well, what's in between me and my happiness right now? What do I need to work on? So it's like taking ownership. If I'm not fucking happy, guess what? It's not the world's fault. It's not the fucking virus's fault if people are blaming that. It's not your relationship. It's not your kids. It's not your fucking boss if you have one. It's not the money, right? Because all of it is just reflecting back the shit in you that you need to work on. This was the biggest thing when I started to see every challenge as an opportunity to create change. Every single trigger was there for me, right? Every pain point was a place for me to go into and take back my power, right? So again, like if you got problem with your health, okay, like when you, instead of being a victim to it and being like, all right, well, I'm just fat, I'm slow, I have no energy, I'm always fucking tired all the time, right? And that's just the way it is, and there's nothing I can do about it. You're giving your power away to that story and that way of being, and it becomes your reality, right? You're fucking powerless. Now you're a fat slob with no energy, right? And we've all had times where we've been giving away our energy, right? Or have been taking care of our nutrition, whatever it is, right? But as soon as you go, all right, cool, this is my next chance for opportunity for growth. This is a chance to create change. This challenge right now to get my fat ass off the couch and get to the gym and do something about it, that's going to help me feel empowered. That's going to be part of my journey. And this is the thing that I wish more men would get, especially like when it comes to adversity, because my life was full of adversity, struggle, pain, all that sort of stuff, right? Like it was passed on from my father and generations before that.
Yeah.
I've done the work to be like, oh, I'm healing the ancestors' wounds of like, struggling, right? Like hard work that always, getting so far, then falling back on your face again. And I had that happen in my mid-20s, where I started a business and I bought a house in my early 20s and lost everything. I'm like, fuck, my dad did the same thing, right? The difference is he went back and got a job. He went back to safety and security, and fair enough, because he had a family to take care of. Me, I didn't I didn't get another job. I went back and like, cool, how do I recover from this, right? I don't have a job. I don't have an income. I've got over 100K in debt. I've just lost my fucking house. Like, do I end it? Because that was an option, right? There was definitely the voices that those demons were not going to go, fuck it, you were better off at 18 or 20 than what you are now in your mid-20s. Yeah. Like, do you want to fucking be here anymore, right? Those questions were very, very
When I was going to the mines the night I went out, I got stopped from throwing myself in front of a car. A lot of people don't know this.
Yeah, right.
Off my head, some dude grabbed me.
Yeah, right.
Because it was the same. I knew I was self-sabotaging. I'm like, oh, I'm just fucked anyway. But it's fascinating when you give power to them stories and what they come up. And this was a culmination. And a lot of men listening now, if you've had them thoughts, it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. Like I say, I lost a great mate to suicide in the mines. It fucking rocked my world, because I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
But it's like, I've had them thoughts. I've had so many things like that. So to hear that from you, it doesn't surprise me. So again, for any listeners out there that have had any thoughts of like, well, it'll be easier to go this way. Do you know the easiest path? Like, serious? Take fucking responsibility. It is the easiest path.
It is. In a place where you're fucking kind to yourself as well. Like we can be hard on ourselves, man, right? And in terms of like guys wanting to leave the planet, I'm fucking surprised when I talk to a human that's actually never had those thoughts. It's like, thoughts never crossed my mind. I'm like, you fucking serious? Like, haven't you been smashed with a brick yet? Like, okay, but so it's abnormal for the guys that have ever thought about it, contemplated, going through some stuff right now. It's normal, but again, like, this too shall pass. Every negative emotion comes back to joy. Right. On the other side of that breakdown is that breakthrough, and that's where you rise the fuck up. That's where you take your adversity and turn your mess into your message, or into the thing that makes you a fucking self-made man, as my program would insist.
I like that.
Yeah, because it is.
It's true, man.
It's how we are made, man. Like, it's through adversity. It's through, where else do you gain wisdom? Where else do you gain lessons, right? You got to go through it. If you haven't been through hell, how the hell are you meant to know when you're in heaven? right?
Yeah,
Essentially,
you're getting that contrast or that perspective, and I think it ties into too a lot of more so now than ever. It's just been amplified, but a lot of people get just motivated in that extreme pain, that last thing, that rock bottom, and all that. Now, one of my messages is it doesn't have to be that way. Now, again, I've had rock bottoms over and over, and I'm responsible for all of them, like all of them, like every single one of them. And it wasn't in that until I was deep in the shadow or deep in my darkness or anything like that, right? I finally decided, like, all right, something's got to change. I remember back, and I was very violent myself, like very, very violent, especially when I drunk, but that was a story too. It didn't matter. I was just angry, always angry since I was a little kid. And I've done a lot of work around that, but I was very violent when I used to project that anger too. I'd follow it up with some violence. I'd fight or pick fights and all this sort of stuff. But I remember one big thing that came with that for me was, I think I didn't even know. I had to watch the camera footage and listen to the police. But I had to, I like hit someone one night, and it's on video and all this sort of stuff. And this is the wrong person, because the next day I got called down to establishment and I got kicked the fuck out of. Like, I mean, like totally. And it was almost in that moment, in that emptiness, where I didn't feel any more pain, where I'm like, fuck, what other signs do I need? I've got myself here by doing this stuff repeatedly. This is so much pain, physical, and my life's done. I even had thoughts I was going to get like pulverized into nothing there. Like I say, the wrong people, it had to happen. And I remember getting so motivated with this one aspect of my life then. And it wasn't long before I went to the mines and really cleaned my act up. But it was, again, that motivated in pain. Upon reflection, like, I didn't have to get to that point. I had so many signs where I could have just stopped and chose to do that. But for me, and I see a lot of men with this, that was my rock bottom. That was my there. And what did I get motivated on? Violence. I'm like, all right, I didn't do the inner work like what we do now. I wasn't even aware of it back then. I didn't know what a fucking coach was. Like, I had no idea. I didn't even know what personal development was, but I chose in that moment, and like, cool, I'm getting myself into this shit. I'm like the one who keeps leading me into this. I don't like this. I don't want this anymore. Like, so what I did, I just started focusing on my values, things I love. That was a choice. That was in my late 20s. I didn't give up drinking, but I definitely gave up fighting. Definitely. So with that there, that ties into responsibility. It ties into rock bottom. What is your message out there now to men and even women with current circumstances? A lot of people's realities are fucking crumbling. They might be perceiving that they're in this intense pain or loss or grief. What is your message to them right now?
Yeah, well, trying to solve the problem or what you perceive the problem to be while you're stuck in it, it's going to drive you crazy. You'll get stuck in your head. You'll make the problem worse. You'll amplify it. Like, as hard as this can be here for anyone to hear when they're actually in it, like, the path out of it is letting go, right? Like, there's many different, obviously, processes and all these sorts of things, but to get into the place where you can create the solution, it's about that place where I call it letting your plates drop, right? We've got all these different plates spinning. We've got our job, we've got our family, we've got fuck you government, whatever else we've got going on, right? All these plates spinning, right? And it's taking your energy, and when you're overwhelmed by one of those plates, it's about to drop, like, allowing yourself to just let it all go and drop, right? And here's the thing, like, if my message was anything, like, it all comes back to actually coming back to love, right? To choose to be loved, to come from love for yourself, right? I understand, coming from a place of love and acceptance for yourself, your circumstances, everything like that, because that's when you can be in the solution of the problem, right? Because the problem is when you're at a lower level of consciousness, fear, anger, shame, guilt, hurt, sadness, whatever it is, like, you're unable to solve the problem. That's giving you the contrast, right? But to get into that higher state where the solution lies, it's about getting up that scales of consciousness. And if we look at the scales of consciousness, you'll be looking at the top. You've got things like neutrality, right? So you've got, after anger, we've got courage, right? So as you keep going up, then you've got willingness, neutrality. You get into a place where you're actually at peace, right? And then you get into joy and love. That's where you are in the solution, right? If you're able to choose to be loved, which is what we all are at our core, right? A lot of people, when they're in their stuff, may not be able to resonate with that. I don't know if you would have told me that 5-10 years ago, if I was going through some things, I probably would have wanted to punch you in the face, right?
Probably the same.
Yeah,
15 years ago, I would have said, fuck off.
There's anger, there's hate, there's rape, there's fucking war, fuck you. Like, and that'll bring that up in you, right? And then we want to go to fucking war.
I think what a lot of people, and this used to me, I used to have, because I was always angry. I had this rage all the time. I used to judge the shit out of myself because I thought that was my problem. Now, for anyone listening, just being in that emotion, that dense emotion, that heavy emotion, or that doesn't mean it's wrong. Doesn't mean it's bad. Definitely. I feel a lot of people keep themselves stuck in them because they don't want to open up and say, yeah, I'm always fucking raging. I'm always fucking angry. I'm like, I'm constantly feel like I'm grieving or I'm sad. Yeah. The emotions they're our indicators, they're our signs. So something from the body, from inside that needs attention.
Yeah.
And when we give it attention, that attention is giving a voice to it sometimes.
Right.
Being vulnerable and saying, yeah, actually, I'm over this. I was an angry dude right up until I got a coach. Like I was 35 or 36. My whole life, all I can remember, angry all the time. It took me nothing to lose my shit. Yeah. And I always knew it was a problem. But like what you're saying, I was always in the problem. The solution was never there. Yeah. When it came in, when I started to grieve the loss of my mate in suicide, then it's almost like it just dropped me through all the fucking emotions, the whole range of emotions, and they all just started coming up. And it's like I had this moment where I'm like, holy fuck, I need to talk to someone. Yeah. I actually need to trust in someone else because the mate I lost to suicide, what was he there for me? He was one of the first dudes that I actually trusted to open up to. So it was like this reflection I got and I caught it and I had this insight. I'm like, is that because of that? Is this a lesson I'm getting from that? And I was so grateful out of all this in amongst the grief and all that. I'm like, thank you for that because that changed my fucking life. And it's fascinating with that. And the emotions, like, that's my realm too, man. I love the emotional work, man. It's like, I love working with the rage. I love working with the anger in a healthy way. Like, first and foremost with myself, we got a huge boxing bag and a baseball bat in the garage. Generally, we got it for chi, but I've been taken to that recently because I feel the intensity. What tools have you got? Because the self-made and everything like that, and you talk about this, what tools you got for like men and applies for women too, to when they've got this, to shift through it or work with it? Go deep into that, man.
I've got a few tools. So I've got a process where basically, if you're triggered more so, you ask questions around it. So what's the story that I'm telling myself? How is this true? Right? Like, and really allowing your victim to just fucking be heard, right? Yeah. Especially powerful with men because the difference, like women, fucking get on a call and talk to their girlfriend about what's going on. Guys, not so much, right? We don't want to be a burden. We think we've got to carry the weight of the shoulders, the world on their shoulders. Yeah. But I've got like journaling prompts to that. A big one that I use is actually aspecting. So talking to the issue. So if it's anger, you can talk to that part of yourself from a higher level of consciousness. So it's like you associate with it, you feel it, and then you disassociate to it and talk to it from your higher being. So it's like you're using the higher levels of consciousness or your God self, your king self, your sovereign self, whatever the fuck you resonate with self, your higher self, and then you allow yourself to talk to that because that part of you, that anger, right, it's actually got a fucking lesson for you, right? So if you talk to that part of yourself or if you talk to that trigger, this is like one of the greatest processes for transmuting it because it's allowed to be heard, right? And again, like I've done this with my little boy.
Your voice to it without it being from you. Yeah, I love the bird's eye view. I've got processes where I sit people in chairs and they step out of one chair into another, and they step into another and they talk to it and they give a voice to it, disconnected from the triggering part. No, I love that too. And you can do this yourself. And I think this is the thing why I love, again, about like the self-made. And this is why probably you and me, where we're taking that responsibility, we're willing, when we're triggered and stuff, to go, okay, we've got these tools. We've either been coached or mentored or picked them up ourselves. Like, let's not forget, we're like, when you become responsible and resourceful.
Yeah.
They're two things that I go with. It's like, okay, cool. I've practiced by opening up and being vulnerable. I need help. I don't have the tools.
Yeah.
And a lot of men are this now. As soon as they get that vulnerability, like, how the fuck do I shift this? Like, not what's wrong with me. I don't want to feel this way. I'm sick of this. I'm like, how do I shift this? And the aspecting, again, I don't call it that. I don't even know what I fucking call it. But that sort of thing, that's so powerful, man. And it's so fucking simple.
Yeah. Another one too, though, like what you just said, and this is something that I teach the guys as we go through it, because they'll be talking to parts of themselves, right? And they're like, fucking, I've had guys have arguments with parts of themselves or judge him or tell him to fuck off. It's like, no, like, it doesn't work that way, because then it just gets deeper into the shadow, right? It's because it's fucking shadow work. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But instead, like, we need to come from that place of love and acceptance, that higher level of consciousness. But the thing of, like, a lot of people try and run away from feeling shit. And this was my big thing. So I would suppress, sedate, or fucking distract myself, whatever the fuck it took, not to be with my shit, right? And a lot of men, a lot of fucking humans, man, like, we don't want to feel shit. We don't want to admit that we're feeling shit, right? Because, how are you going today? Yeah, I'm good, mate. We're all meant to be fucking good. That's not the reality all the time, right? But again, we're conditioned that we're not meant to feel this way. Especially men. We've been conditioned through war to be, put it fucking down there, sedate it, suppress it. Do not fucking talk about whatever you do. Shows weakness. It's not okay. You've got to, all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when we actually stop being resistant to this, understanding that it's just energy in motion. Emotion is energy in motion, right? And we've stored all these emotions in our body for fucking years, right? Unless we've allowed them to be expressed and felt, they're still fucking there.
Yeah.
So we stop taking it so fucking personally when we just feel like shit. I don't know about you, but if you ever you feel fucked, you feel sad, you feel like disempowered or anything like that, the more you resist it and see it as a problem, right, the more it becomes a problem. It's like what we resist persists. If you're like, you know what, this is here and I'm just going to be with it and allow it to feel, that actually allows the emotion, the energy in motion to move and transmute, right? Because
I think you raise a really important point there, and this is where I see a shift happening. And this is what led me to breath work, body work, and all that sort of stuff. The understanding, the understanding about the emotions stored in the body. And I remember when I started doing, like I say, yoga and some qigong combined with breath work, I had no choice but to feel the emotion through these practices. It was just bubbling up and all this, and then I'm like, holy shit. And it was scary and it was vulnerable because I hadn't felt this sort of energy before. And it became that energy in motion. And one of the biggest things I see with men, and I talk to men about this all the time with their health, is because we anchor these in you, trauma, like you mentioned, trauma and all that, it has an emotional charge. Whatever's happened, we've made it mean something. And we anchor that in our body, in our cells, in our organs, in our fucking bone marrow. Now, later in life, when the dis happens in the body, for a lot of men, women as well, but the dis happens, it's that energy trying to escape, and it usually tries to escape through something else, wherever it's stuck. Like, again, for me, organs, people have kidney failure, liver problems, or they suppress, sedate it through drinking. Well, what happens to a lot of fucking drinkers? The liver, anger, frustration, a lot of breathing problems, a lot of people smoke, sadness. They're all relative to the emotions. And as soon as I had that little like, oh, this makes sense, I just went down this rabbit hole, like really like working with my body in these different ways. What I picked up on the way, of course, lots of tools, modalities, practitioner in all different modalities now, but it all come back from this understanding. It's like, okay, I've been an angry man all my life. I understand now there's a lot of emotions.
Prostate cancer, man. Prostate cancer for that one. You don't want that shit.
The last thing I want to be is stuck in a hospital with some random finger in my asshole to check on my prostate. Like, but this so many men right now, even if they're open up to the mindset, guys, you got to drop into this deeper stuff. This changed my fucking life because as soon as I had these tools to be able to feel, had the courage to say, yes, I want to feel this. I know by feeling this. Sometimes it took a little argument or something with the missus, or something happened, manifest in my life. Might have been a business situation or something like this. But when I'm like, okay, that hurt. I got to feel this fucking hurt. All right. That's why I love my practices. Some of my practices might be sitting out with my feet in the fucking water at the backyard.
Yeah.
It's being present with the emotion. It's being present with, okay, I understand this is stored in my body. It mightn't be from the thing that just happened, but that's triggered it. Correct. Something's got to come up. Correct. Back to childhood stuff, back to, okay, so much of my stuff when I was young, by the way, was hurt.
Yeah.
It was hurt. I felt hurt because I was taking on my mum's hurt. She was always feeling hurt. Some of the things I experienced, a lot of sexual abuse around me and my family and all this in my childhood. I witnessed some stuff, all this sort of stuff. I stored a lot of, I felt hurt and I felt guilty. I get triggered these days. If I have shame coming up or I do something and it's not at the highest and straight away, I've done something not at the highest because I want to have a bit of shame come up. That shame is not just from the thing I've done. I needed to do that because something fucking deep down. Do you find that a lot in your work, like even with your personal stuff or even with clients when you're tuning into their emotions and stuff? Yeah?
Yeah, of course, man. Yeah, because again, like if the emotion hasn't been expressed and it's in your body, you're going to unconsciously find ways to create reasons to feel it, right? Yeah. Again, like you know yourself, it's going to come up one way or another unless we keep running away from it. Yeah. In saying that though, there was a time where we could run, right? There was a time where we could distract ourselves. There was a time where men had been doing it for years, especially, right? There's a shift in consciousness. You can't fucking run anymore. Like it's not an option.
Yeah.
Right? This is why so many guys are leaving the fucking planet. Because those emotions, they don't have the fucking tools to process it. They're judging themselves. They're unable to create what they want. They feel stuck. They feel powerless. Like, why the fuck not? It's too fucking hard. Yeah. But yeah, again, with what you're doing, like allowing yourself to feel it, to be okay with those emotions being there. This is the thing. I did mindset work for 10 years, and that got me so far, right? And when the mindset work wasn't doing it enough, I'd fucking drink, right? Some guys will bump coke, or I'd fucking have a heartbreak, and that's where I competed as a bodybuilder. I use that pain and that hurt to go harder in the gym and be more disciplined and all those sorts of things. Yeah. But we're in an age now where collectively, like, we're transmuting the dense energy of this planet. If you're on this planet right now, whether you fucking like it or not, you gotta take ownership for whatever you're seeing and transmute it.
You have to, because the vibration of the planet is rising. A lot of what we're feeling now, it's not the shit we're seeing manifest on the outside. It's just a reflection of the vibration of what's going on, and we're feeling it. And because what happens is why I like to look at it, these denser vibrations, emotions, and that are stored in the body, when our environment is vibrating higher, so to say, the planet we're on, all that sort of thing, consciousness is rising. Yeah. The cells, if they're vibrating lower, this vibration is going to impact them. It's going to shake them up. And this goes in with the model of NLP too, is like emotions come to the surface when they're ready to be healed or expressed. Yeah. This is happening now. Like people are going to have no choice. Now, if they choose to ignore that or suppress it more, again, what happens? The manifestation is they might give away their power, their consent, their free will to the whole agenda right now. That's happening a lot. And this is why. The other thing is it's going to come out in dysfunction in their body, disease in their body. They're going to get sick anyway. Or they're probably going to leave the planet.
A lot of people will.
And it's like everything else. And you would have noticed this too. How fast is things happening now? Like how quickly is things happening? It's because this is rising.
We are shifting into a higher consciousness.
And here's the message I've got for everyone. Men, women alike. If you choose to take responsibility now and go, you know what? Radical responsibility. This is it. I get to create this reality. I get to, whatever I experience going forward. I want to jump on the fucking vibration fucking rocket ship.
Fuck yes. Yeah.
You hop on this timeline now.
Yeah. Yeah. The
5 years, you're going to look back. I'm going to say, 2021, 2020, your world is going to be really different. But if you ignore it,
you're fucked. You are fucked if you ignore it.
You won't even be able to fight off the fucking zombies that are coming, people.
No, 100%. No. You'll just be too trapped in your own shit. You'll be disempowered. You'll become like paralyzed to anything. Because this is like, again, it's like, I've got a message for humanity. It's come back to what the fuck you are. Come back to love. Like, again, if you look at the levels of consciousness, if you, there's graphs on this, do a fucking Google search. In love, right? That is where we are at that higher level. That's like just before enlightenment, right? It's peace, joy, love type of thing. in that space, if we're choosing to be loved, guess what? Then we create, not from scarcity, not because I have to, not because I fucking need to pay the bills, not because my job's been taken away from me. It's when you come from a place of love and acceptance, then you create from love. Like essentially what we're doing, we do it because we fucking love it. I couldn't do anything else now. I'm unemployable. I can't do what you fucking tell me, right? I need to do what I'm here to do, right? And
Yeah,
that
exactly.
to be, do, have. So be love, do the thing you love, have all the things you love in your life, or suffer. Continue to suffer, which we were all doing consciously or unconsciously for a very long time. And again, the planet's not going to hold that frequency for much longer. So we will see a max exodus, and that's okay.
That's why I've chatted on a couple of podcasts about this, what's unfolding with the manifestation round, with the political scene, with all the rubbish that's going on in the world. There's a huge part of me, and I know you're the same, is like, this is quickening up everything anyway. And if a lot of people leave the planet, I feel like, now I'll be open to this. If it's someone close to me leaves and passes through this, of course I'm going to, there's a fair chance I'm going to feel sad and grief. But I've come to a place of acceptance to go, all right, this is fucking happening. If millions and millions of people leave the planet, I've even had the conversation about the 500 million on the fucking Georgia Guidestones. I'm like, maybe that's us. Well, if that's my perspective and I can come to acceptance of that, not saying I want it to happen, not saying I want people to leave the planet. Let's not get that fucking distorted. But coming to that level of acceptance that if a lot of people are leaving the planet now, I'm actually okay with this because I understand what that means right now for humanity, what that means with the vibration, with the consciousness going forward. And again, it's relevant to what we're talking about. This is why it comes back to personal responsibility too. We all have a responsibility in this. It's not what we do on the outside, really. That's important. Like what me and you are doing is helping others. That comes from us being whole. Yeah. If we're not in our being, we can't do that shit. And if we're trying to do that shit, like serve, lead other men especially, and we're not feeling that ourselves or anything, well, we're missing the fucking mark. We're missing the target. So yeah, man, it's I want to shift gears a little bit. Shift gears. You've touched on this a little bit. The medicine, man. For me, medicine is everything. The stuff we've been talking about anyway is medicine for me. The emotional work, mindset work, coaching, relationships are medicine for me. But let's go a little bit into the plant medicine, because I know myself, I don't know if the listeners know, I spent a fair bit of time in South America. I don't like using the word dabbled. I've explored. I've got curious around like ayahuasca, washuma or San Pedro, definitely different types of mushrooms. Another one, Bob Insana, really, really, really unique one. And other plant medicines with intention, alongside my journey with the body and emotional work. And that it all came in at once for me, which is good. And I've had many shifts, insights. I like saying a lot of the deeper plant medicine journeys I've had are like 20 years of growth. So not only do I have the insights, the downloads, the shifts and all that, I've had 6 months of fucking wormholes. No, I've had the fallouts from that. I've had the shadow side of the letting go of that. I'd love to hear more about your exploration of this and what it sort of meant for your life.
Yeah, okay. Well, I guess we could start when I started. When I first started working, or before I started working with something like mushrooms, and I just took them as a teenager or a young man, it connected me to the divine, man. Like I had all this programming and conditioning about what the divine was, God, source, whatever you want to call the creator. I had this concepts of what it was based on what I'd read in, Bible and learned in church and all those sorts of things. And a bit of a crazy narcissistic being from what I had learned. It was very, very nasty at times. And but I had a lot of healing through that. So that's when mushrooms became my medicine, because this is where I first learned about actually accepting and loving myself, right? I didn't realize it. I was out of home at 15, drank, smoked bongs like every fucking day. So I had a lot of judgment, and, even with the music that I listened to, dating before I was married and all that sort of shit, like it was all condemned. So I had a lot of self-judgment, right? And I guess this is why I attracted a lot with guys who have a lot of time, either consciously or unconsciously, lack of self-love, self-judgment, self-hatred, lack of belief in themselves. It's because that's how I was conditioned. I was giving away my power all the time to this entity that I needed to tick certain boxes to actually be good enough to have what I wanted, right? That was my limiting beliefs. So
Yeah.
when I had this experience, I just, my first experience, well, I think it was like my third experience of taking the medicine. And we weren't taking it as medicine, right? Like I was eating it out of a fucking bag after going for a walk in the forest. We didn't know what we were doing. This wasn't the days when you would check the internet and knew what a heroic dose was to do it with intention. Like I was doing heroic doses as like the same way you take anything, right? You take as much as you can, right?
so intentional but not intentional.
Yeah.
Very different intention. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Like again, I had no idea what I was doing with it, right? My dad heard me when I was on the phone talking to a mate the first time I was going to do it. I remember I was in the kitchen at my parents' house, and he goes, "David," he goes, "you're not going to do magic mushrooms, are you?" And like, you know, with his religion thing, he was very anti everything. I'm like, "Yeah, I probably am, Dad." And he's like, "Don't do it, son." And I'm like, kind of, you know, when you kicked me out of the house, you couldn't really tell me what to do anymore. So I'm going to go and do what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And it was from that experience, like I got given this acceptance and this love. Like I got to connect with this supreme being, this infinite intelligence, and I was feeling love for the first time, like love and acceptance. I remember my eyes were watering, and I was telling this this entity, this consciousness, I'm like, but like, and I would give all the reasons why I wasn't worthy. But you know, I've slept around, but I like to drink. And I remember I was like, at this stage of my life, I fucking loved this beer, Super Han. I was a boxer at the time, so like, give me a Han, super dry, low carb. I drank quite frequently and quite heavily, but I really loved that beer at that time. And I'm like, but I really, like, for one, it was like, I really love women. And then it was like, but I really love this. And like me thinking there was something wrong with that. And it's like, it doesn't matter. I just fucking love you. And I just feel waves of love. Like now I know like the cells in my body were changing. I was experiencing unconditional fucking true love. And yeah, in that journey, I remember like as I was getting this message, I was looking at this painting on this wall. And my friend's mum was like Aboriginal, it was a dot painting, and this beautiful snake was coming out and like dancing. And the more I was feeling this love, the more beautiful, bright this snake was coming. And yeah, I went to the fridge, I got up off the floor next to the heater, went to the fridge, remember grabbing out a beer. I'm like, cool, like it's okay that I love this, right? Like, and again, like alcohol is not necessarily a good thing, but at that stage in my life, it helped me get through a lot. And cracked the beer, make the full one. I was like, that felt really good. I didn't get any effect from the alcohol, and I was able to just enjoy that. But I started to form this relationship with this medicine where it was giving me an opportunity to shift my way of thinking from the way I was programmed, to break away from that and be connected with a higher intelligence, right? And from that, again, like it just really opened me up, and I started to have these experiences with this medicine where I was changing on a cellular level, like my frequency, my level of understanding of who and what we are and all these sorts of things. I just had they were mainly light journeys for a few years, right? So I was getting these beautiful experiences, having fun with friends, still like a bit party, but
yeah,
you know, wasn't destructive or anything like that. I had that for many years until I was about 25, and then yeah, I pushed the pushed the limits, and then I started to have hell experiences. So I faced the shadows, I faced the devil, I faced all these programs that were in my unconscious mind. Very painful, horrific. Like you said, going down a wormhole for like 6 months, not knowing if I'm actually on this planet or if any of this is real anymore. Am I actually lost in another realm and this is an illusion? And
yeah.
like, I went through all that stuff, you know, thinking I was Jesus. And
well, I didn't get to that part, but anyway.
Yeah.
I don't see you as a Jesus type man.
Well, you know, at one stage, you know.
Was it a Viking version?
It was definitely a Viking version. I had my fucking sword.
Yeah. Do you know, and what I'm hearing from you, and this is really, really interesting, and for everyone listening, like, the reason I asked this question to share about this, you even shared it from that first time where you were experiencing that unconditional love. Yeah. And then you started to go into this place where you were breaking free from your programming. Yeah. Now, even though it wasn't intentional to go, I'm going to break free from my programming, I'm going to feel unconditional love. that's something you got a perspective or a contrast on back then. And I can, hearing you now, that anchored in there, didn't it? Like when you felt that, and that then probably become more of a driver. I know when we take drugs, party drugs and that, we're searching for that first feeling. I was for years and years. Like the first the
first pill, you never get
first pill I had, a yellow melody. Even though I had yellow melodies again, for all you party people from Melbourne and Sydney out there, you probably know what I'm talking about. Even if I had the same sort of pill, I could never get the first hit. But that's what I went on this search for there, that anchor of what it felt like. Yeah, that high. And what I feel maybe, but what I got, when I went searching for something else, when I got into the plant medicine, so to say, I was more like, okay, cool. I want to work on my inner world on that. I wasn't searching for anything. I wasn't even searching for the love or anything like that. Although in some of the, especially the ayahuasca experiences, I relived a lot of that searching for that rush.
Yeah.
But then the fallout from that, I experienced it again to get that contrast in my ayahuasca journeys, so I could let go of that, so I could let go of all that sort of thing. Where did you find a shift, say, working with mushrooms and that sort of thing, where you found a shift where you were actually working with them and it was more intentional? Where do you remember where you actually had that shift, or was it something that just evolved? And
yeah, a little bit of both. So from that experience, right, before then, all I had was dirty drugs, right, like alcohol, and I didn't go into the chemicals too much, and I had fair share of pills and stuff. But when my friends started bringing out the crack pipes and doing all those sorts of things, dabbled, but then I'm like, I could see the road that was going down. It wasn't for me, right? And whatever I do,
the crack pipes for me, there was probably 12 months of it.
Yeah.
But all the other ones I was into for years and years and years, the speed, the coke, all that sort of stuff. I have many stories around that. Some I can't even mention on here. Yeah. I might one day when the other people heal from their stuff. But I realized the same thing with the crack pipes. I'm like, no. This is a slippery slope, even though I was already on a slippery slope. This was like, yeah. So yeah, cool. Go on more about that. So that resonates with me where you're at with that.
Yeah. So like the thing with mushrooms, like everything else has a come down, and there's like, there's more type of thing, and all that sort of addiction type of behavior and impulses. Whereas the mushrooms were just like enlightening experiences, right? Like, or really cool experiences. I had one journey with friends where we all took them and we were like in a cartoon land. It was like The Simpsons, and we were all experiencing the same and seeing each other as cartoons, and we were all in that same wavelength, right? So it's like, there's something going on here, right? The world's not as we perceive it if we're all having a similar experience. Yeah. So I noticed how much it was actually awakening me and changing things in me, basically almost straight from the start. But it was after like I had some very challenging experiences where like I had the ego death and the facing off with all your stuff, which the medicine was very good to me for many years before it opened up that experience. Yeah. But yeah, from then, after I got over my PTSD of dying, I started to have more intention with it. So I would do it to sit. At times, I'd go into my fear. All right, so I'd face those fears. All right, so I'm gonna die. I'm gonna be torn apart. I'm gonna face off with eternity in hell and all these sorts of things. Right, so I faced off with those things. But in opening that up, I was then able to see other realms, other parts of myself, me in previous lives and things like that. So I started to see that I was opening up some stuff I wasn't experiencing when I was sober, right? So when I would take the medicine, I started to use it with intention. And I would notice, like, before I started working with shamans with plants, like I was doing this all on my fucking own, crazy, right? And I would notice different journeys based on different experiences. So I'd put on some like nice chill step music, right? And then like it would turn over to psytrance. So I'd be laying there in meditation with this. And then like I would notice like all the demons and the dark entities coming, and like didn't know what to do. So I'm just faced with all this stuff, and then like in fear and having to go into those fears. And eventually I just learned, cool. I learned my power, came into a place of respect and love instead of judging and being fearful. It's like, hey guys, the fuck do you want?
Yeah, we've touched on this before. I remember, like, I'm very visual in a lot of journeys I have, and I can see these beings or entities or energies, whatever you want to call them, come to me, but I was always very open to it and accepting, because I was like just in this. I wasn't embodied then. I'm like, oh yeah, cool, let's whatever. Like, they generally come, I call them tricksters. They generally come painted like, we've got gifts for you. We've got these messages that are going to change your life, or this sort of stuff. But then when I realized, and it was after some wormholes, I call it, like for a while where I really got stuck in this, and I was like consciously channeling. I don't know what the fuck I was doing, to tell you the truth. And I'm okay to say that now, because it was very intentional what I thought I was doing. But I had this one time where it's like, no, I've got my power. Fuck off to the light. With love. And then I started experiencing, when I was in that, like, I don't need anything outside of myself. And I was seeing this in the journey. I didn't need to see this, but I was seeing it. And it just was like, when I could see this happen, when I was like, I was in my power, I'm like, I don't need anything outside of myself. Just off you go. Not only was I like staying in my power, whatever that aspect of a soul was, or that entity or that, I was actually helping them on their path. And that's the way I perceived it. Wasn't all the energies, by the way. I confronted some nasty shit, but but that was a huge shift, not only in the medicine journey, in my life. That was a big thing. Now, I was already taking responsibility, but it really helped me to align what I was here to do, like in helping people get from A to B, helping men get from A to B. Don't worry about all the fucking distractions and stuff. When you're in your power and you just focus on the things that are in alignment, for me, the A to B, simple as that. Like the A to B in my business, the A production, being efficient, being effective. A to B is in my relationship, just doing the small things like growing, this sort of stuff. A to B is in my fucking health. When I started just doing that and all the other stuff that could help me, the shiny objects, be it fucking medicine journey shiny objects like beings, entities, energies, or in the fucking 3D reality. When I switched off from that shit and I was just in my power, man, that's when my life felt really, really full in a good way. So yeah, the medicine stuff fascinates me, man. And you mentioned until you started going into ceremony, I've got this, and I've formed this belief for anyone that hasn't experienced medicine or anything like that. I really feel, no matter how bravado you can be, even listening to you go back to when you were doing it, I really encourage everyone to have some support. Being a really intentional, an intentional space where you've got shamans, and a shaman doesn't have to be one that there's shamans are everywhere. They're gifted healers, people who are here to hold space, who can hold energy, who can protect space, all this stuff. I really encourage anyone who wants to delve into the space. That's the path. That's where I got into, and I'm grateful I did. Because,
but also integrate, like if you haven't delved yet and you're going to start doing it, the plant ceremony, like they can be magical, and yes, there can be times where things are just cleared and healed and you come out fucking glorious. However, people tend to become dependent on the actual medicine doing the work. Now, a lot of the time, the medicine will show you what needs to be worked and what needs to be shifted. So it's to get in the lessons, all right? So I strongly urge people with medicines to, do it in a held space, right? Where possible. And if you don't know anyone, start asking questions, set the intention.
Oh, if you're listening to this, guys, reach out. And it ties into, I talk about the 20 years of growth, like going to Peru and like on these 10-day immersions, we're like doing different plant medicines, all that. We did integration, we did heaps of body stuff, emotional stuff in there. But after that, I remember the 6-month wormhole I had. I was doing some of the work. I knew I had the tools, but what I didn't realize was I was avoiding actually what I needed to do. Like I had stripped off so much and gone so deep. This is what the medicine can allow you to do, that I was being super freaking lazy with my body. I was like, I'm just going to do yoga for half an hour every morning. I'm disciplined. I do it every morning, but there was no intensity to it, or there was no really outcome to it. This is 6 months. I didn't do cardio for 6 months. Didn't think I needed it anymore. I lost all this weight. Like all this sort of stuff. I wasn't doing strength training anymore. Like all these things. And I'm like, I just had this realization. I'm like, I feel shit. Instead, because I wasn't integrating properly. And I was like, I could do it on my own. I couldn't do it on my own. What did I do? Got a PT. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, train me like a motherfucker. I know I'm missing this shit. It's not that I don't know how to do it. I was okay to ask for help. And then that was a huge shift for me, man. That was a couple of years ago. Now I'm like that. I'm 43. I'm the fittest and strongest I've ever been. I've never felt so good. I've never felt so vital. I've got this vitality and all this. And it's really given me that, because I'm like, all right. And again, what we're talking about, anyone who wants to go down the plant medicine journey, all that, the integration is probably actually the most important part. And that's the whole experience. And like you've been in the health space, the body space, the training space. Is that your number one priority in life? Like looking after your body? Yeah, it is mine.
It's one of my highest values, absolutely. Yeah, like
that's a better way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely like a highest value. Yeah, like the way I feel impacts the way that I'm able to show up, right? If I'm feeling like shit, I show up like shit, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I like to feel good in my body as best as I can. You know? So it's high value for me because everything is connected to that. Body, mind, soul, and business. Right? My body feels like shit, everything else suffers.
Yeah. It's almost like I've got this thing. It's like, here's these two things, and the way I teach is you got health. Focus on your health, because if feeling good is there, you're gonna be more efficient, effective. You're gonna be more motivated. So many people talk about motivation as if it's this thing we have to get, but it's like if you're feeling good,
you'll be motivated.
Exactly. And the other thing is carrying drama in your life. If you got any drama in your life, them two things directly, and we've spoken to the responsibility aspect. When you take responsibility, you're taking responsibility of everything. You literally got to eliminate drama. When you work on your health, two things to work on, combination, they'll have a positive impact on every other area of life. And of course, there's work to do on that. But I don't know how many men come to me where they're always busy with work, but they're fat and overweight. And I'm serious. They've got no energy. They're burnt out. They can't play with their fucking kids. To me, that's sad, because I'm like, hey, motherfucker, that's not sustainable. You're going to get, you're going to get it. And the reason I feel sad around that is because it could take the simplest decision for someone to really flip that around, and the enjoyment they will get out of it in the journey, in the process, they don't know what they're missing out on.
Oh, definitely. If health is one of your challenges, it's one of the most fulfilling, tangible,
measurable. Numbers,
opportunities for you. Yeah, like I'm running right now, man. I've never been a runner. I'm doing couch to 10K, and I ran for 20 minutes straight on the beach yesterday. Yesterday.
No wonder you got big calves, man. Maybe I've got to do that a bit more.
The calves are a gift, man. I had them before the running. I was never a runner, man. Boxed and kickboxed, I'd skip a little bit, but that challenge of taking your body to the next level. That's why I'm running right now, right? I've been training weights for years, but my next challenge, it's do I really want to? I've been 10 kilos heavier on stage and stuff like that. For me, that's not the most healthy I can be, the most sustainable long term, right? Now I'm longevity, endurance, athleticism, right? So running for me was a challenge, man. So but the high that you get from busting through that. So if you've got guys coming to you and they're like, I've got no energy, I'm 20, 30, 40 kilos overweight, I've got no sex drive, I can't get my dick up anymore, whatever it is, taking that as your next opportunity to create change, definitely going to be one of the most fulfilling things you do. And your relationships, your finances, your business, your lifestyle will all be impacted by health. That's why it's one of the highest values, if not, I've got love and connection right there. But,
I've just taken the men in my group through a lot of value stuff and the importance of it. Now, values can be done many, many ways, but just to highlight, my course is called How to Get the Important Shit Done. It's pretty black and white, but going straight into the values has been fascinating to see. And it doesn't surprise me how many have gone through it and they don't value health. What have they got wrong in their life? Or they don't value money.
Yeah, right.
It's not in there. However I took them through the process, it's just not in there. And it's this is a big thing that a lot of people go, I'm living through my values. Well, you might be, but
maybe you need some new values.
Maybe you've got to value some of these other things a bit more if you want to say, you value family. But again, a great example is you work all the time. and you're unhealthy and you're tired all the time. You don't get to play with your kids as much as you want. One example I'm setting in the world, and I really consciously set out to do this, is like I spend fucking hours each day with River, my 3-year-old, hours each day. And because I value that so highly. Now, yes, it takes work sometimes, but I need to be, I need to be full of energy. I need to be strong. I need to be like able to sustain this and go through that. Now, I need to value health to be able to do that. Now, if I don't value health and I value that, I'm like, oh, here's he's at me. What example am I setting for him going forward? And that drives me more than anything. Well, you mentioned the bedroom, same thing. If I'm not feeling good about myself and I'm going to fucking like my queen, she feels that. How do you think the fucking bedroom life's going to be? It's going to be fucking shit, if at all. And I know a lot of men struggle with this right now. I know a lot of men that need to work on that. Work on your health. And it's okay to look good too.
Fucking, you look good, you feel good. Not all the time, by the way. There's a lot of fucking guys with big muscles that are fucking broken inside, right?
Yeah.
But like your confidence, like again, when we're talking about health, it's the physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, right? Like it's every part of it. And physical health in this reality is like a big fucking part of it, right? We're pretty connected with our physical being.
Yeah, we touched on this before. We'll go back to the running. I think it drives me, and like I have images or visuals in my head. There's a couple of things that I do. One of the drivers I have is if I'm running through a burning kingdom, there's castles, and I'm like this fucking fiery lion or a dragon, and I'm just fucking destroying everything, like the enemy or whatever you want to call it. That's one of my motivators when I'm running. It's fascinating how that comes through. The other one is I'm fit and strong enough to carry River on one shoulder and my Queen Chaitanya on the other. And she's a solid Viking. She is. But that's one of my, I'm like, all right, that's my driver. That's like, I've got to, it's not just, and I think that comes into whatever you want to call it. Like a lot of people might be like, oh, that's a survival thing, a fear thing. No. For me, it's like, fuck yeah, I'm like that fucking warrior that can fucking do that.
Correct.
Yeah. And
with no fear, we might be running into battle for all you
But this is the thing. I feel a lot of men haven't felt that energy or that power before.
It's been taken away from, like, we've been emasculated, man. Like today's modern society where you've got instant everything, instant gratification, dopamine. Like you don't have to do shit as a man right now to get your rocks off. And I'm talking about actually get your rocks off, right? They've all got computers with fucking whatever gets them off there, right? Instead of actually having to be the man to attract that energy and interaction, right? We fucking get it over the screen these days. So men to be men, when they've had like instant fast food, fast alcohol, fast sex, whether physical or virtual, right? Like men haven't had to do what we once had to do.
That's why, why the world thing, man. Like part of me, I don't want it to happen, but imagine there is like a fucking war or something, man. It's gonna fucking, you talk about leaving the, it's gonna actually give the opportunity for men to step up. Like it's going to give that opportunity to feel that actual, like that primal fucking, because that's what it is. I say it's primal. It's like there, but that's our fucking power. That's our true innate wild man revolution.
Like, beautiful, man. That penetrative fucking force, that assertive, like I'm going to protect, I'm going to provide, I'm going to get shit done, right? And you and me are the type of guys that we're willing to put our life on the line for what we believe in. We'll protect those we love, and we're fucking willing to go to those measures if need be. Again, peaceful fucking warriors, like always coming back to the heart, not out here to start any fights. But again, like we know how to stand up where and when it need be. So a lot of guys won't, man. They'd rather keep their head in the sand and pretend that nothing's gonna. But like, see what happens in the coming times, man.
That's why I'm grateful for the coming times, man. Like I mentioned on one of the other podcasts, like when I was like, the stuff that played out in Melbourne, where the union staff, there was just a bunch of men that were just had enough with the big V push and all this. They just had enough. And there was a lot of unhealthiness, and I don't condone violence, and they didn't know how to express their anger and stuff, but they fucking did it and they honored it and they stood up for themselves. I felt this huge shift, like in Australia especially. I'm like, that was really, really powerful to go, these these men just want to go about their business. It's a lot of men. We just want to go about our business. They
Wanna
don't have to
do
be
it.
like you or me. We just want to do our thing that's important to us,
Yeah.
protect, provide, whatever, but really quiet. But that was like something got poked down there, and it really ignited an energy in a lot of men that probably wouldn't have happened before. And when they ended up at the shrine, like energetically, geometrically, the way Melbourne's designed and everything like that, what that has been there for the original people of the land, why that was a special place for all them and all that, for the men to go there in their, what they felt like, that anger or that rage or that frustration. That was a shift in consciousness too. And I feel we're going to get more moments like that. For me, that was great to see. I see a lot of people like going, oh, this is fucked and all this sort of stuff, a lot of unhealthiness in that way. But that was a huge turning point, I think, here in Australia with what's going on with the men coming into their power. But again, it's what comes after that when the men are feeling their power. That's the key to that. And it comes back to the acknowledging that this wasn't just a one-hit thing. Like, this is, how do I cultivate this? How do I tap into this? How do I shift through whatever this was? And I think that comes back to, like I say, that the work we do, there's nothing more fulfilling. This is what it is. Well, there probably is a few things, but when I've helped not only myself or have my own breakthroughs, but not about me, when I help a male client tap into their power and fucking back it up with action, be it expression, be it saying how they feel to their queen, or acknowledging that they're their queen, whether it's being fucking that leader in their family and really setting some strong boundaries, or fucking hitting some huge health goals when they know they're fucking not being responsible. There's nothing more fulfilling than seeing a man do that and then fucking go out and take on the world. That's the driver for me. It's because I know I've been there, man. I was a fucking pussy. I was a victim. I could be good at some things, but
we need a lot more integrated masculine. Again, healthy masculine men who are integrated, that are doing what they're here to do. Living a life of service, of fulfillment, of purpose, and whatever that means to each person. There's no right or wrong. But I don't know, man. We're seeing an awakening take place collectively, and I've got faith in the men. And there's plenty of guys that we can support. There's plenty of guys that can support us too, bro. Like, we've still got a lot of growing to do as well. We support each other.
Exactly. With that, I'm going to chuck a heap of links and stuff down below where to find you, but just tell us a little bit about more where men can find you, women, of course, too. You're a good-looking man. They're probably going to come and want to check out your social media and all that sort of shit too. Anyway, I had to throw that in. But where can they find you? And what are you most passionate about right now of what you're bringing to the world?
So you can find me. My name is Dave Berriman. You do a search on Facebook. I've got a website, and Instagram, anything like that. Pathtoselfmade.com. That's like the business website. So that's that covered. YouTube channel and all that stuff is in process. So I guess I can update that later down the track. What do I stand for? Right now, man, like, I'm here to create a ripple effect. I'm here to help men get into their power and step into a role of leadership. The way that I've structured the business model is, first, they do the work, they basically reclaim their power, take control of their lives, and then find out what they're here to actually step into, and they know how to do it because they're taking responsibility. They can rewire their limiting beliefs. They're able to process and clear their emotions. But essentially, what we're working on, we've just had a few guys step into that right now, is the leadership role, where they become self-made mentors. So whether they want to do that within my program and become facilitators, or go out there and support other men. For any men coaches out there right now, if you're looking to step into that next level of embodiment and leadership, hit me the fuck up. I can help you with that. But the guys at the moment, I wanted to provide that opportunity, right? A lot of them aren't going to be able to work in the current climate and I want to create like a ripple effect, like a benevolent virus of guys who are doing the work, supporting their brothers.
Did you just say a benevolent virus?
Benevolent fucking virus,
I love it.
Empower, like, I can empower 100 men over the next 12 months to each empower 100 men. Like, it doesn't take long until we really start to shift this story, raise the frequency of the planet, and have good, integrated, healthy, masculine men who have good relationships with themselves, with other healthy men. And then, we're of service to the women instead of a lot of the stuff that's taken place with both people in a relationship projecting and hurting each other. It doesn't need to be that way. We can work together. We're meant to work together. We need masculine and feminine both integrated, no longer blaming, no longer playing victim either, right? It was really interesting to see how much victim consciousness was in one of my clients when his relationship with women, right? But he's got awareness of it now, so he can that shit, take responsibility, and create healthy relationships with the feminine. Yeah. We're here to work together, bro. That's how we heal the planet. That's how we create heaven on earth. And that's how we move away from some broken systems and shit that's going on. We need numbers, essentially. So the more people we can impact, again, spreading a benevolent virus, man, 100%. That's what I'm here to do.
We should run a program called that.
Benevolent virus.
The Benevolent Virus Mastermind.
Yeah. Maybe, man. Maybe.
Oh, fucking hell.
Yeah.
One last question.
Sure, bro.
5 years from now, where do you see the world?
Where do I see the world?
After this wild man revolution has evolved.
Yeah, well, honestly, man, I think I see sovereignty taking place. I see the corrupt elite and systems all fully exposed for all to see. I see humanity waking up. For many, they'll feel it's too late, be disempowered, and that's where we will see more of an exodus, right? But in doing that, a lot of people that have been willing to do the work to become integrated will start to create new systems. Because again, like people are like, well, if you're anti the system, and I'm not anti shit, right? I'm pro, let's be in the solution, okay?
Yeah.
But, when people are worried about, well, what about the medical systems? We have healers, we have conscious nurses and doctors that are here to support that. Essentially, we can create a new earth, a new way of being, because the planet is shifting. So 5 years, again, like we're speeding up. I don't do timelines anymore, to be honest, bro. I don't even have my own 5 or 10 year vision anymore. I can't do that anymore. Like that was shifted last year. When I get asked 5 years, I'm like, more of this, right? Just bigger, more expanded with more people, right?
Yeah.
But it's all happening, bro. I called you and all the community we've got here. They rocked up, man. Within 2 weeks of saying I need more men in this area, boom, yourself and some of the brothers that we hang out with all just rocked up. But I see the systems being there, right? Hospitals, communal sort of living, like creating a new so we're not dependent on the corrupt and broken systems that are currently controlling, manipulating, and destroying the planet. So whatever range that is, 5 years' time, we've at least got it where we've got hospitals that we can go to without having to be of certain medical requirements, if you know what I'm talking about, to be accepted into society. Yeah. I see 5 years is long enough for those communities.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed. And then we're going to be building the foundation to our new castles, and we're going to be training samurais. We didn't talk about the samurai sword. We're going to have to save that for another one.
Another reason for another episode. Yeah, bro, we'll have our castles. We want the castles. We're going to have the castles. We're going to have the samurai swords. Well, we've got the swords.
Awesome, brother.
Thanks,
with that,
bro.
we could go on for more. Absolutely. Loved having you on, brother. It's been really, really good diving into this. I'm sure there's a few C's been planted for people out there, maybe some triggering moments, maybe some ahas. Definitely get in touch with Dave. He's got some great stuff going on. You're going to see us in action with more things, I truly believe. And this has been another edition of the Wild Man Revolution podcast. Check out all the links below. My shit, Dave's stuff. It's all good. See you on the next one. See you, brother.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.